Hello guys, welcome back to today's tutorial. So on the previous tutorial we spoke about HTML and we designed our first web page, our Hello World page. So on this one we'll be talking about understanding HTML, attributes and elements, and the entire page structure. Alright, so this is what we'll be learning today. The first thing we'll be talking about is the role HTML plays on the web. Second thing will be talk about attributes, how they are, and how they work and what they are. We'll talk about the role the link element does in plays in the HTML document and how we can use them to add external style sheets or external resources to our web page. Right, and then we'll talk about HTML boilerplates, why it's important, and also the UTF-8 character encoding and why it's needed. Alright, so let's get to it. Alright, so remember we talked about HTML and we said that it's like the basic structure of the web, right? So like it's like the foundation or like your building block when you have a house or when you want to build a house. So you have like the foundation and then you have your blocks before any other thing is added, like your painting and your roofing. You have like the structure, right? So that's what HTML does. And HTML uses elements to insert pictures, media, text, and everything inside the web page. So it uses elements, right? And if you look at my screen, you'd see some of the elements that I've put here. I've put three H1, Li, and then P elements, right? So the structure of an element is it starts with an opening tag and a closing tag. All right, so we have two types of elements. One that is enclosed, they are called void elements, so they don't have a closing tag, and we have the ones that have an opening tag and a closing tag. So this P element, paragraph element, has an opening tag and a closing tag, as you can see on my screen. So it starts with an angle bracket, left angle bracket. You have your P, right angle bracket, and then everything comes between. Your text is going to come between the opening tag and the closing tag, right? So the only difference between your opening tag and the closing tag is this forward slash, that you have here. All right, so let's move. Okay, so an image tag is an example of a void element, right? An element that doesn't have a closing tag. Okay, so let's move. Right, so what are attributes and how do they work? Okay, so each element has attributes, and these attributes, they carry values. Right, so if you look at the basic structure of an element, inside the first tag or the opening tag, you have an attribute, and then that attribute has a value, right? So you have the name of the attribute, equal sign, and then the value of that attribute in quotation marks, and then you have your content between the opening tag and then the closing tag. Okay, so if you look at my screen, you're going to see some examples. So we have an a tag, an anchor tag, and the anchor tag has this href attribute, and the href attribute has a link, which is the value, right? So href is used to link to different website or external websites or different sections of your page, right? So that's what it does. And then in between your opening a tag and your closing a tag, you're going to have the content, right? If you check out here, you're still going to see an input tag, right? So input tag is what the page uses to collect data, right? So if you go to any website, you're probably going to see like a form that collects data, a contact form or something else. But those places where you put your data, the place where the page collects your data, they are called input tags, right? You have that box there. The box there is an input tag, right? So the input tag has different types. For the example we have here, we have the checkbox, and also you can also see a different attribute called checked. Now this attribute is a boolean attribute, and what I mean by boolean is that is true, either true or false. Right, so when you have this as checked, it means that input tag is going to be checked as default, right? So which means true. If you don't have it here, it's going to be unchecked. Okay, so let's move. What is the role of the link element in HTML, and how can it be used to link to external style sheets? All right, so it's very important. It's a professional practice to separate your CSS from your HTML document so that your page doesn't get messy. All right, so in order to link your external CSS to your HTML, you're going to need a tag called link. Now that link tag is going to be inside your head tag. Okay, so there's an example of the link tag here. All right, so if you notice, it has two attributes. Remember we talked about href when we were talking about the anchor tag, and how href is used to link, is like what you use to link to an external document, right? Here that has rel is like the relationship, right? So this is like the relationship between the document you're importing into the HTML element, right? What is the relationship? And this says that is a style sheet, right? So href is used to specify the location of the URL for the external resource. So yeah, basically, like I said, the next thing we have is what is an HTML boilerplate and why it's important. Okay, so the image we have here is an HTML boilerplate, right? So basically it includes a basic structure of the HTML document, right? So you have everything you need to start building your web page. This makes it easier and quicker for you to just set up and start building, right? And it also reduces some errors or some things that you might miss out, right? So it's always handy whenever I want to start building, I start with this boilerplate, and then I have everything I need to like continue building. I can edit the title, and then I can input whatever tags I need to start building the structure of my website. All right. Okay, so if you notice here, there are some things that we need to explain. There's some things that we need to understand. So we've spoken about this doc type declaration. It's like you're telling your browser that this is an HTML document, and you're specifying the version. This is HTML5, which is the latest version, right? If you look at this HTML tag, you have the language specification, and this is English. EN stands for English. Now you have your head tag. Now inside that head tag, we have our title, link, metadata. So the head tag contains metadata that are like behind the scenes data for your website, right? So they don't show up on your browser or your page, but then they are there behind the scenes, right? They have their functions. Okay, so we have this character set UTF-8, and I will come to that in a minute. This is the title of your page, and remember the link we talked about, relationship, style sheets, and then the href. All right, so everything has its function, and this is like the basic boilerplate of your website. Okay, so the last thing we have is our UTF character encoding. Okay, that's right here. So basically UTF stands for UCS transformation format 8. So if you notice, remember we said something in previous lesson where I said that the only thing the computer understands is binary digits, right? Zeros and ones. So it has to be able to convert whatever you type, whatever text, whatever image, whatever symbol, even emojis. They have to understand it. So there has to be some way where it's encoded or converted in a format that the computer is going to understand, right? So that's what this thing does for us, UTF-8, right? So it converts all your symbols, all your character, your text in a format that encodes it for the computer so it can understand in binary digits, because that's the only language the computer understands. All right, so that's the end of this module. We'll be back shortly in the next tutorial, and then we'll keep learning some other important features and other tags, and we'll start building some basic HTML pages. All right, thank you for joining in. See you next time.
Don't forget to like and subscribe.